In this video, I'm going to show how to anchor a colored stitch. I've done a little bit of duplicate stitch on and swatch, one of the many bazillions of swatches that I have. But this technique is also applicable for intarsia and when joining a new color of yarn. You'll see I've got 4 stitches here, and I've had to use a different yarn than the swatch was made out of because it's a little bit older. But anyway, you'll be able to see the point of what I'm getting at. When you duplicate stitch or you do intarsia, you want the stitches to look as if they were knitted in all in one yarn. What happens is if you use a color that's pretty contrasty to the base color, you tend to not want to weave your tails in outward because you're going to get peek through. So you wanted to weave them inward over the colored stitches. But what happens is you'll see these stitches split at the base, just like all of the other stitches on this swatch. But the two end stitches where I wove the tail in don't open up at the base. They're not twisted, but they just won't open. And the reason for that is because I wove the tail in going in the opposite direction. I've gone ahead and worked another line of duplicate stitch here, and I have not woven in the tails so that you can see them here. If we look at what's on this swatch, you can see that all of these stitches are going to behave like regular stitches. If I were to take this tail and weave it back towards the swatch, if I pull on it, you'll see it's going to have both legs that want to pull in towards the knitting. So the solution is for me to anchor that stitch before I weave it back in the opposite direction. And to do that, I can catch just a hair of the stitch next to it by splitting the stitch, and you'll see nothing will show through to the front if I'm very careful how I do that. And then I can come back in and duplicate stitch in my tail. Now, if I were going to continue the duplicate stitch on another row, say going downward and over here, the same thing will happen. My tail is going to pull the work inward. So before I go down to the next row, I can once again anchor the stitch to the stitch next to it on the outside, then come, keeping it open, then come back down and go in here, and I won't have, here I'll work the stitch, and I won't have the same issues that I was having up there. It'll still open at the base. So you'll want to anchor before weaving the tails back inward, and you'll want to anchor if you need to come back inward and work in another direction, or if I were going to go back, or even if I were going to go in this direction, I would still want to anchor that stitch over here, because I'm thinking more about which direction the tail is going to move. And so that'll help you from having twisted stitches and stitches where both legs just want to lean in the same direction. That happens also in intarsia. When you go to weave in the tails and you weave them into the same color, you'll have two legs that want to lean in the same direction rather than two legs that want to split open and behave like a regular swat, like a regular stitch there. So that's how you anchor a stitch.